Day 4 of the FIFA U17 World Cup is in the bags, and we have much to discuss, whether it is teams getting wins, seeing top performing teams play each other, and seeing what that looks like now, having a better feel for who are the pretenders, who are the contenders. We start to have that field start to materialize itself, and we're here to talk about it. Guys, welcome to the Africans. We do primarily Canadian and African content, but when it comes to this World Cup, I was very eager just to kind of see how it would look. And even though we're spending 45 minutes every day just talking about the games that came through, it's fun just to kind of get familiar with some of the names and faces of football's future with this new formatted of U17 World Cup. So if you guys like this type of content, or you're wondering and looking forward for some things, make sure you leave a comment who you look forward to seeing in this tournament, which players have stood out for you. Furthermore, which players you are excited to see and which teams have impressed you at this World Cup as we move. Before we even get into something like that, we do need to quickly talk about SofaScore's quick team of the match day one. First round of games are there. We'll try to give you a nice look at what it looks like within our screen. We're going to blow up a little bit for you to take a look at it because it really just kind of shows which players really stood out in terms of their first match days. And if we look at the live here, look at the left here. If I mispronounce your name, guys, all the apologies. Otaibi in goal with Candido as your right back, Roche as your midfielder. Roche as your center back, Furtado pairing, and then Jose Neto, Tayechi, Slama, and Dembele as your midfield, Cabral, Scrone, and Ree as your front. Everyone here, lowest rated by SofaScore is an 8.4. I think it's very much well showing in terms of what those players were able to do on their first match days. But again, we're not here to look back. We're here to look forward and talk about what we just saw today. And we had some nice matchups to talk about as came through. So Group A, B, C, and D got back onto the pitch. We had Italy picking up a win over Bolivia here 4-0, then South Africa and Qatar drawing. Talk about those games there. Portugal with another strong win, this time over Morocco, while surprising for some, but if you look at the tea leaves of the New Caledonia Portugal game, Japan only a scoreless draw with a major result. Second point actually for them at a World Cup. Croatia and Senegal broke the trends of draws and got 2 wins over Costa Rica and the UAE, respectfully. And then Argentina with another strong performance. I think probably a much more impressive performance when you see how they were able to get past Tunisia 1-0. And then Belgium with a large win over Fiji. We're starting to see, and again, I had this Argentina Tunisia matchup circle. I was very much curious to see what they would look like, and it was a very competitive matchup. Only one goal scored in it, and I think that is very much fair in terms of what we saw on the pitch. Definitely a strong day for the European sides. A mixed bag for Africans. I don't think the African sides performed poorly with only one win, but then a few close losses to boot to show what they were able to do. So not disappointed at all. That's why it's more of a mixed bag for what you're looking for. Tunisia came in with their 4-2-3-1. And again, if you're just looking based off of ratings, which is a little bit tough, I would always encourage you, go watch the games. They are all on FIFA Plus, or FIFA's YouTube channel. If you don't have access to them, a VPN will do you well. But Tunisia were always a side that we're going to look a little bit more dangerous, and they are more of a countering side that can break over and off of your mistakes. That's what they've been at the senior level. That's what they are at their youth level. And if you look at the attacking momentum of the game, this game was primarily an Argentinian possession game with Tunisia having a few moments to try to break through and try to create some opportunities. We always like to take a look at where players were, but even looking at their lineups based off of where their starting 11 were, right? Argentina moving down in this quadrant here, primarily in the attacking half, Tunisia primarily in defending half. A few moments to move, but for the most part, they were defending. So this very much does feel like the game I expected, a little bit cagey, with Jankowski scoring in the 67th minute to break the deadlock as it went. I think a good performance by Tunisia. Ultimately, you'd want the win. Even a draw would have done well for you, but unable to really find any true opportunities. But possession felt a little bit more even if you look at the stats, but really it's when you look at the shots and the shots attempts that tells the story of the game. 17 shots for Argentina, one goalie save for them, whereas five goalie saves for Tunisia, as well as six shots overall. More corners versus that, set pieces in that sense. Passing, again, speaks to how everything was a little bit more even moving forward. Shots overall, I always like this stat here to see how dangerous sides were. 10 shots inside the box versus 7 outside. But of the 6 shots, 4 inside. So Tunisia were trying to be more dangerous. Unfortunately, not able to find the net and what they were trying to do. And as a result, it's not a terrible result for Tunisia. They did have the big win to start off. So they are moving definitely in a solid direction here and have a good chance to move on once they get to their last group matchup. However, it will be against Belgium. And again, because there's so many teams, you're going to hear this a lot in all the videos I make about this. 3 points will go a long way in this tournament because you're taking your top 32. It is a conversation of pushing yourself into the conversation. In Tunisia, though, they are in third place in their group or a top 3 spot. So they are safe. They have the goal difference +5. Unfortunately for Fiji, everyone's doing that at their expense. But they are still in a solid position to move forward, and try to move out of the group. For Argentina, Argentina. How did I am burned out, but that's besides the point. Argentina for them, another solid performance. Not out of the woods yet, though playing Fiji in their final game will certainly lift a lot of the goal difference based off how Fiji have been conceding. And so you can see Argentina as possibly one of the top rated first place groups with a large performance coming up on their match day 3 coming forward. Now, the other game in that group with Tunisia was Belgium versus Fiji, and was not too close of a matchup, though a couple of red cards, which will come into effect in their final card games. But Belgium getting a 7-0 win over Fiji. 4 goals by Muteba, Fernandez with 1, Rivera with 1, and then Noah Fernandez opening the scoring up. This was a game that was nothing but Belgium. Even if you look at the attacking momentum, Fiji had a couple moments, but for the most part, it was just Belgium running through in the game. Now, we should note that there are 2 reds in the game. Wanamaker gets a straight red off of a VAR choice or video assistant review. So he's going to miss the next matchup versus Tunisia. And then as for Fiji, Goudar, who picks up 2 yellows in this matchup, will miss the final game of competition as well. In this game, to let you know again, match overall, it was all Belgium, 73-27, 9 big chances, 28 shots on frame, 7 corner kicks, 400 plus passes to 164. This was Belgium truly putting their dominance here on the pitch. 21 shots inside the box versus 7 shots outside, whereas Fiji were only able to muster up 3 shots in that sense. Touches inside the opposition box, 56-2. I don't know what else I need to say to show the type of dominance that was going on in this game. And so as a result, Belgium faced Tunisia in really a battle for better seeding. How the seeding is going to work here again is you're going to have your top 12 first place teams are going to be seeded 1 to 12. Then your top second place teams 1 to 12, and your top 8 third place teams going, and then it's going to go best first place versus the worst third place going. So it's basically 1v32 all the way down until you get to your matchups of 16 versus 17 based off of the rankings. And so these matchups will matter, and a team will slip through. We are sure someone's going to have a great opportunity to really showcase and really look well for what they've done. Let's talk about other games that happened on our match day two. Italy getting past. Actually, we'll go Portugal dominant over Morocco. Not the best showing for Morocco so far. They've started this competition out and they are sitting with 2 losses. Not fully out of it, just because a big victory over New Caledonia could push them over, but I don't think New Caledonia is a side that is going to just roll over. But Portugal, just dominant as well in their movements, up 4-0 at the half, early goal in the second half, and then the last one coming in. Jose Neto, Matias Mide, and Ancio, and then Agua. If I said that wrong, guys, I do apologize. With your goals, not much more to talk about in terms of possession. It was all Portugal, as you can see, even looking as we're scrolling down. Jose Neto gets a 10, just a simple 10 rating. Apparently, he was perfect. It's 27 touches inside the box tonight. There's not much more you can talk about in terms of how good they were playing. And then João Arrego, and then Mateus Mide, 80, 8.4, 8.1s. This was thorough domination by Portugal. And now when you look at Morocco, you wonder, is their pathway still open when it comes to making the round of 32? It's not impossible. We'll talk about where teams rank in terms of third place rankings. However, it's going to be a tough matchup for them to get through. I don't think New Caledonia is going to be a walk in a park. I do favor them in that matchup, but I think New Caledonia would certainly make it difficult for them because they're trying to work to make it out of the group as well. And if that's what your goal is, make history, push for history, do the thing. And so there you have that group, Japan versus New Caledonia. I think that was one of the more surprising results that would have come through in this competition. I'm a little bit surprised based off of it was fully dominant by Japan, but they just weren't able to find the goal to get through. Even there was a last ditch shot for a penalty at the end, but the ref didn't give it. Since that Uganda Canada choice, I haven't seen too many. Now, again, 8 games all happening pretty much simultaneously. Can't have eyes everywhere. So there may have been one that went through. But Japan and New Caledonia, to me, is the result of the tournament of this day four. I don't think many people expected it to go for it to go fully into the range of a 0-0 draw, especially with Japan being that dominant. If you look at the statistics of it, again, 73-27, more shots. This was just New Caledonia saying, we're going to get a draw and take our chances versus the likes of Morocco. Maybe they're going to try to do that, but 36 shots, 6 big chances, 11 corner kicks. This was all just New Caledonia sitting back and defending. 1 point gives you hope. And they did that. Their second point ever at a World Cup, which you give them nothing but pride. And hey, congratulations on that hard work. 60 touches in Japan. You were hoping at least something to go in. And they had a few good opportunities throughout the game, but just weren't able to push through and get that result. And so, again, your last matchups, Portugal are playing New Caledonia, and then Portugal are playing Morocco. Wait, I got that wrong. Your last matchups in Group B are going to be Morocco versus New Caledonia and Portugal versus Japan. And that's really going to set what's going to happen in the group overall. Huh. That was a tongue twister for me, apparently. Fiji and Belgium, we talked about that. Bolivia falling to Italy. Bolivia haven't been bad per se, but this was again dominance. We're trying to kind of seeing the top teams are being dominant at this level, which is something you did worry about with the U17s. You were concerned about the idea of would the competition level be there through it all, and it hasn't been. But hey, these are teams that are going to start to become more and more acclimatized to this type of competition. And that's what you'll kind of look like and look at again. Italy doing their best in terms of dominance, goals by Pandolfi, Ignacio, Latani, and Elimo Gale. If I said that wrong, Destiny, I do apologize. But again, fully dominant by Italy in terms of everything they were doing. Nice. I did like the work of their midfield in this game. I caught a little bit of this one. And truly, you want to start to see players to kind of shift up and look better in terms of what they're able to do. If we look at some of the statistics, as we were saying, more wins there, more accurate passes, touches inside the box. Always fun to show the dominance, but not as high. Bolivia certainly had their moments to come through, but 33 touches in the box, 13 shots is inside the box versus five outside in the 4-3. With Italy sitting where they are currently, you're certainly giving themselves an opportunity to move in and look really good. They lead their group, haven't conceded a goal yet. The other matchup, South Africa and Qatar, 1-1. I think for me, looking at how South Africa played, I think they left points on the pitch here. And it's tough, early goal by Mohammed in the 3rd minute for Qatar, and then South Africa, Emil Witboy is able to score and equalize. And then from that point, you're thinking, okay, maybe this is, but again, Qatar are always going to sit back and defend. And South Africa had chances and opportunities, but just couldn't find that next goal excruciatingly. As a result, it's a 1-1. I think both teams would be happy with that. Qatar gives themselves life with one goal, with 1 point. South Africa, they continue to build off of the points that they've gained, which means your finals matches, if you look at the stats for this game, the final matches for this group would be Qatar versus Bolivia and then South Africa versus Italy. I think that'll be a very fascinating matchup where I think South Africa will decide to sit back and defend a little bit more. And they are a lot more dangerous on the counter. And I do think that playing against a side like Italy will give them the opportunity to do that a little bit better than, say, against Qatar, where they had to hold more of the possession. At their core, they're a better transition side, especially if you look at them in CAF qualifying all the way to where they are here. So again, the last matchups for that group are going to be very much fun and fascinating. So you look at the group, you're going to have Italy playing South Africa and then Qatar playing Bolivia. Life is still available for any of these two sides to move through, but we'll have to wait and see in terms of what comes from there. Other matchups, feels like we've jetted through a lot of them. Let's go to our last matchup before we talk about what's coming up tomorrow. Senegal getting past Costa Rica 1-0. Kamara scoring in the 8th minute. And again, Senegal is a side that, again, you look at a lot of the West African sides at this level. Solid transitionally, good to solid technically, and transition and athletically aren't intimidated by too many sides. And they're showing that here again. Burkina Faso are going to have the opportunity to do that again on Saturday, but 66-34. Costa Rica sitting back more. I thought they had more in this game to get, but couldn't really pry the game away from Senegal. Mamisao is the player of the match according to SofaScore. But I mean, looking at these stats, more big chances. The shots were very much even. Possession, because of that, had more passes for Senegal, with Costa Rica sitting a little bit deeper to invite and trying to spring the counter. Touches in the opposition box were a little bit closer than what you would expect from this game. But Senegal get the win overall, which means when you look at their group, Croatia were able to get past United Arab Emirates, which means your final matchups, I believe, are going to be 1 versus 2, and then 3 versus 4 again. Croatia versus Senegal, and then yeah, it might just be that. So your match day threes for these teams are going to be very fun to take a look at in terms of what comes. Friday match day is going to be a very interesting one as we get groups E, F, G, and H on the way and playing. Here's some of the things you want to keep in mind for those matchups. A fascinating matchup from a CONCACAF and just a world style. Does England bounce back versus Haiti, or does Haiti shock the world? That's your first matchup tomorrow. El Salvador versus Colombia. Can El Salvador pick up, or can Colombia pick up more than 1 point? North Korea versus Germany, I think, is going to be a fascinating matchup just from styles of play and who can be more clinical on the day. Mexico versus Cote d'Ivoire, another fun matchup to keep an eye on. Zambia versus Honduras as well, one to keep an eye on. Egypt, Venezuela. Venezuela surprised some people beating the likes of England. Egypt didn't look too bad in the first game, getting a win over Haiti. So the two winners of the group, the match winners of the group so far, play each other. Team two, we'll have a better idea who's going to take that group. Switzerland versus South Korea, same idea. And Indonesia versus Brazil, I expect that to be lopsided in terms of how it goes. But it seems like we're jamming through this, running through this quickly. I may have forgotten a game here, but that's all right, guys. We're going to finish this off. If you have missed the other recaps, they are there. Make sure you jump out there and just keep an eye on all the recaps that we have going on the channel. We also did drop a Canadian men's roster reaction with On the Rise. That's why he's still in the corner there hanging out. Make sure you go there, see what you like about the Canadian roster, react with us there. And as always, we'll stop talking right